Greg BARWICK is a performance coach and speaker who is dedicated to elevating the health and performance of impact-led entrepreneurs with expertise in biohacking, NLP, breathwork, and unconscious mind reprogramming. Greg combines science with practical strategies to boost the performance in his clients' personal and professional life. He works online and travels around the world holding breakthrough immersions for his clients, supporting them to redesign themselves and step with confidence into the next chapter of living their wildest dreams. Enjoy. Let's jump into it, bro. I've got some questions kind of here that I prepped from the information you sent across and some stuff I pulled from your socials, but I'd love to just go with where your heart calls you to start, being that you are about leading people with the direction of their heart, and just hand it over to you. Initiation, specifically for men. What's the conversation that needs to be had that's really alive for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So initiation for men is so important because without that chance for a man to really come into his sense of self, connect in with his own heart's deepest desire and his purpose, which is himself, there is a lack of direction. During tribal days, the young boys would be taken away, separate from the women, separate from what they've always known, and being taken into liminal space. So, a space where transformation can take place, where they can lose themselves and lose everything that they knew to be in order to be able to find themselves. And in the more modern day, this process of initiation doesn't take place. The boys aren't taken away from the tribe, from the normal layout. And if anything, they will go out and get drunk with their friends or those older figures, which ends up
Right.
being like a pseudo initiation, and doesn't give the solid, like psychological, mental, emotional frameworks that and like the spaciousness, the safety that is needed for this transformation to take place. So yeah, it can leave them in this place of still very much having a relationship with the feminine, of one with a son with their mother, and this can
Mhm.
be transferred over into their relationship with their partner. Can leave them in this place of not knowing exactly where their center is, and also missing out on so many of the richness of what it is to be and learn from other men that have already walked that journey, that are already sitting in a place in their life of maybe more of that elderhood where they've got 50, 60 years of experience under their belt, and then they can share and show them the way, and show them the way of what it means to be a man, and the different ways of working in the world as a man, as understanding like what steps can be taken, and some tools and some practices, and even just the ways of seeing life.
Yeah.
So yeah, the importance of this is it allows this transformation to take place.
'Cause I noticed that on some of the events that you run this year, there's men's specific work that's primarily a theme throughout what you're
Yeah.
doing. And the men that you're working with, I'm curious, what stage of the process are you finding that they're at? Like men who are curious about this kind of work, men who are stepping into these spaces, have they already been through some kind of initiation and they're seeking for a deeper layer? Or are you finding that people are just at the beginning, they don't even know about initiation and they're looking for depth in a way that they perhaps can't even express because they lack the maps of understanding, or is it
Mm-hmm.
a bit of a blend?
Yeah, I feel it's a bit of a blend. So primarily there's people that have maybe gone through a bit of a spiritual initiation themselves, and they've been cracked open to like a new way of living, a new way of seeing themselves, a new way of world around them, but maybe haven't fully landed and been able to embody the newness that they're starting to see. And they're still looking for that pathway in which to like, how do I actually be and do this in the world? So that's one side of the demographic. And then the other group of men that we find a lot come to us is the guys that are getting to a point of like everything's too much, like a bit more of a crisis point, and so they know that something needs to
Right.
shift in order for them to be able to continue to move. It's sort of getting, unfortunately, a lot of guys when we receive them are already at that point of crisis, and this
Got
is
it.
like the last possible option for them of like cracking themselves open and sharing and being like, I've tried to do it myself and it hasn't worked, so here I
Yeah.
am.
For those men that you're finding that are at that point of like the last resort in a bit of a crisis, is it due to like a lack of willingness on their part to not explore these places, or is it due to like a complete lack of understanding about the need for initiation? And specifically, what I'm leaning towards in the undertone of the question is what's the most valuable thing that these men who find themselves at the point of crisis and they go, wow, I really need to do something because life's not going the way that I thought, or I'm just not dealing with life properly, whether through alcohol or other addictions, whatever it may be. What's the missing piece of the jigsaw puzzle for them to actually start bridging into the importance of initiation and to even start begin forming an understanding of it?
Yeah, for a lot of the guys, and the initiation journey is like a completely new experience for them. It's something that they haven't heard of before. And them getting introduced to it for the first time, there's like an aha moment that they have that I witness in them of like this clicking over of like, oh, of course, I'm feeling this in myself as a man. Maybe I'm still feeling like a little boy within myself at times, or feeling like I can't fully take responsibility for my life. It's like this clicking over of like, of course, I've missed out on this. And it feels so, my sense from them and some of the feedback I've got is like that, of course, this is meant to be a part of my development of being amongst men, being able
Right.
to really express myself in the parts of me that maybe aren't able to be expressed as a father in a household or as a boyfriend in a relationship. So I think, yeah, part of it is just not even understanding or knowing that this is an option.
Hmm.
And yeah, are you able to repeat the second part of your question? Because there's something specific you were looking for. Is there?
Yeah, specifically like leaning into if I'm a man that knows nothing about initiation, but I
Mhm.
recognize that life is going a little bit sideways to perhaps what I'd anticipated. What are the messages that are you finding are valuable for these men? You spoke of the light bulbs that start to go off for them once you start to explain things. I'm curious what some of those light bulb moments are. So, like if there's a theme generally. Of course, everyone's got their own individual part, but I'd imagine there's themes across perhaps certain ages or certain types of experiences where the light bulb does go off for them once you offer them your work and help them map out their experience from a lens of an initiated man.
Yeah, so one of like the common light bulb moments is just not even knowing that there's a map or a model of the world outside of what they already see. You know, we
Right.
all with different belief systems, depending on what culture we've been in, depending on what our parents think, believe, and what they model to us. And one of these light bulb moments is like the way I see the world, the way I'm interpreting and working with the world isn't the truth, it's my truth, and that there's 8 billion other truths in the world that I could potentially choose from. Like every single person in the world has a different way of seeing the world. So that would be one of the big light bulb moments of just like this blowing open of wow, the way things are and the way I've been perceiving them to be like this hypnotic state that I've been living in and only seeing it through my vision isn't the way it is. It's just one perception. I suppose one of the other light bulb moments is really taking a step from like more of a victimhood mentality of like life is happening to me and being able to step into realizing actually I can start to work with this mind body system to be the creator of my life and that life is happening for me and being
Right.
able to shift them from this place of feeling like okay, I'm not sure what's going to happen, this uncertainty of life, and that life could take me any which direction that it wants.
Hmm.
um, and coming into more of the truth of like life being a co-creation, and I, depending on my thoughts, my feelings, my actions, that I get to play a part in that. And this steps him into obviously a much more empowered place of going like, yeah, I've got some level of input and control over my destiny, rather than maybe just expecting that this is the way it's going to go and the way they've seen their parents play their life out, and maybe not happy with that and not wanting to follow that path, or their peers around
Yeah.
them. Actually, I get to start to create this on myself. So a whole new range of freedom. And I think the other beautiful aha moment is that they get to release this idea of what a man should be. And this is the
Right.
beautiful thing about when you come into a men's space, is you get to see healthy masculinity embodied through so many different models of the masculine, through so many different models of men, and realizing that it's not one thing, but it's something different and unique for each man, and it's up to each man to be able to find that unique expression within him. That of course it has particular same value points within each man, but it's expressed in a different way. It's not a cookie cutter of like
Right.
maybe some of how the uh, some of how like mainstream goes, or how we see a model of excellence. It might be for the current society like an actor or
Right.
um, yeah, or a social media influencer, and we go, that's what masculinity is, and I need to be like that. It sort of breaks this idea down of like, there's not one model of it, there's not one way that we're trying to hone ourselves into. It's actually more of allowing this inner version of us to come out and to grow into this highest version of what we can be as a man. So yeah, there's some pieces that are the big breakthrough moments that seem like quite a common experience. Yeah.
Yeah, nice one. And you mentioned two things that uh, raised my curiosity for a deeper question. You mentioned the idea of a man coming into his senses as he goes through initiation. And then you also mentioned unique expression. And I feel like these two kind of tie into one another, right? But
Mhm.
I'm also curious that for some people, the words coming into his senses might not even make sense. So can you speak to that a little bit more of what does it look like for a man to come into his senses?
Mhm.
How does he experience, see the world, feel the world differently as a
Mhm.
result of coming into his senses? Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah. So I feel there's like two layers to the answer to this question.
Yeah.
First part I'll approach is like coming into his senses in terms of having an openness and a curiosity to life in which he can see beyond his belief systems. You know, I explained this a little bit before, how we're brought up in a particular way of seeing the world, and
Yeah.
until we break out of that, that's all we can see. We delete, distort, and generalize all the information that comes into our five senses, and we really narrow it down to a very small part of reality that we're ending up seeing, depending on our belief system. So, the first part of breaking into his senses and like sensing something beyond his world would be was what I'm talking to. And then the second piece to this is more of like coming to his senses in his body. So starting to feel things that he hasn't felt before, realizing that he's been living more in a bit of a numb state, numbed out state, where he's not fully feeling his emotions, not able to access his intuition on a deeper level, which is a sensory feeling in the body that can give us a feeling of like, yes, this feels right for me, or
Hmm.
this doesn't feel aligned. So there's a deepening often during these journeys of men having the safe space, which maybe they've never experienced before in their life, to drop down into a deeper layer of their body, to release their mind, to drop into the body and start to feel things that they haven't felt before. It might be a love and appreciation for their partner because they've been given enough space away from the home to be able to fully see and appreciate what's been happening at home. It might be,
Yeah.
you know, a hug with a brother that sort of breaks them open to the new level of feeling aliveness in their body, and this realization of like, fuck, I've been here, but I haven't been fully in life or alive. Like there's a new level of aliveness that it is within me. And so much of that aliveness that we experience as humans and as men is feeling emotion in our body. And when we're not connected to our emotion, there's like this whole golden thread of life, this undercurrent of life that is not experienced. You know, we're intellectualizing life to a degree, but the emotion is what brings in this deeper richness of being able to connect with ourselves with deep levels of meaning, and also connecting to the people around us. So this is partially of what I'm meaning about coming to senses, is yeah, connecting back to life, connecting to the beautiful opportunity that we're all living.
A follow on from what you were just speaking about regarding the golden undercurrent of emotion and coming into a relationship with that. Sometimes it's tricky to formulate in words completely. Some of these experiences, they can be slippery for the mind, right? To the best that I can, at least how I've experienced it through my journey, is that there's a tangible difference between emotion and feeling. And to the degree that I sense that emotion is almost pulling one from the path, but feeling that like they're not mutually dependent on one another, right? So you can be in a feeling state without the need to be caught up in an emotion. And I'm curious about this because it may just be in the way that you've worded it, right? That it landed for me. But when you speak about that golden undercurrent and coming into feeling with emotion, is it about people oscillating into different emotions, right? Happy, angry, sad, frustrated, rageful? Or is there a way to navigate these where they can feel them, experience them, but stay centered through the experience and find purpose through the experience, right? Because the way I've experienced the default, at least from the way that I was raised in the modern world, is that you just block yourself off to these things, right? And that's not um, very sensible from an initiated lens, right?
Mm.
We want to be experiencing what life delivers us.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for bringing that more into definition because, yeah, that's a super important piece of like, where is it emotion that is more fear based and something that, of course, needs to be journeyed into, and where is it like my inner guidance system? Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, it's a interesting landscape. And this is like coming into the realm of emotional intelligence, eh?
Yeah.
And something, yeah, that the world doesn't celebrate as much as like obviously IQ and being able to think things through with our brain. But this is so much of where the magic can start to take place. But yeah, I feel there's like a different stages of the process for this. It's very easy to speak about it in a general view, but there's different stages of
Mhm.
the process. And I think the first thing is becoming aware of all feeling in the body, whether it be feeling or whether it be emotion, and starting to like rewire the nervous system to be able to feel these things. When we go into a trauma state, sometimes we can block out sensations within the body if we've had past significant emotional events that we haven't been able to process the emotion through. It can send our body more into a numb state, and in
Mhm.
that state, we're closed off from both sensation and emotion. So I think the first thing to become aware of and to speak to here is that there's a need to come back to the senses, come back to the body, come back to alivening things. So we even have a chance of picking up on the full spectrum
Right.
of feeling or emotion in the body to be able to even interact with it and to learn from it. And then from that point, there is then of course like this place of needing to negotiate these inner places and these inner states, which is very much like a learned experience.
Mhm.
A lot of this I feel guys are able to learn through being amongst and in circle amongst other people, because there's a certain amount that can be done this within oneself of like meditating and feeling into what is happening. But then I feel the second part that really takes it to the next level is being able to use other brothers as a mirror. That when we're going through different states and we're trying to make sense of what's happening within me and what's the right path to take, or am I making this decision out of fear? Is this a thought that's based in fear, or is this a thought that's based in intuition? Being able to have brothers to mirror off of is a very powerful place where there's space held, and allowing us almost to like externalize that, give ourselves a little bit of space, and also sometimes open to feedback on what our other brothers are feeling and what they're sensing in the situation. And there's a beautiful
Mhm.
saying within men's work of iron sharpens iron, and this is fundamentally what we're
Right.
talking about when we come into circle with other men, coming up together in battle. But it's not a physical, tangible battle of trying to take one another down. It's sharpening each other's swords by sharing, and then another brother might be able to share his perspective if we're open to it about what he sees, and yeah, picking up on maybe some of the subtleties that we're not seeing and asking a deeper
Mhm.
question. So yeah, this is definitely like an internal journey to take of like realizing, where am I coming from? Is this fear based, or is this more in alignment with my intuition? And then, of course, taking it to a larger setting where those mirrors can be used as a place of like navigation is another really important stage of that journey. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. And take me back to what you were mentioning earlier, where you spoke about tribal initiations and that there was a common denominator of going through the process of losing everything that they knew to be.
Mm.
Can you speak a little bit more about that? And specifically, like what, first off, what does that mean? Second to that, you mentioned that it's lacking in modern day culture. What does it look
Mhm.
like for a man to allow himself those experiences in a modern day culture?
Mhm. Mhm. So by saying like losing everything that he's known himself to be, I feel that our environment can very much hold a very solid anchor for who we think ourselves to be, the people in our life, even the place that we're living, the job that we're working, um, our friends, our partner. And by having a space to be able to be removed from that, being able to separate ourselves from that for some time, we can come back to that essence of who we are as an individual. So translating this to like tribal days where the boys were taken away around the age of puberty, hitting puberty, taken away
Mhm.
from the tribe and separated from their mother, they were given a chance to experience life away from the feminine. You know, we're born into this world through the feminine. We spend so much time as young children, as young men, being nurtured by the mother, by the feminine. And then I feel there's this really important stage, and this is what the initiation provides, of separating from the feminine and seeing the polarity of the separateness from that, and finding that feminine within fundamentally as well, like finding that nurturer within, finding that place of inner solace that we can hold ourselves and be gentle with ourselves and gentle with what's coming up for ourselves, just like the mother would have provided. So that's an important part of separating from the tribe and separating from the surroundings of what we know ourselves to be. And
Yep.
they call this going into liminal space, like a space, and the experience of this space is where we lose track of time and we lose track of space. Like we almost like when you walk into a movie and you walk out the other side and you're like, who am I? Where have I been? What's going
Right.
on? But the beautiful thing about this liminal space is it actually is a solid foundation, and a void that we can then do some rewiring of our unconscious mind. There's tangible change that can happen through our nervous system, through our unconscious mind, that is provided through that liminal space, taking it away. So
Yep.
often the young boys would be taken through mental, emotional, physical challenges that would, within this liminal space, that would challenge them to their core, that would allow them to have the opportunity of finding their own inner strength, of finding their own inner navigation,
Hmm.
from moment to moment, of trusting their own gut and not having somebody step in and having to fix it for them or take it away or tell them what to do, that in a safe environment and under the guise of the elders in the tribe, given space to find themselves again and again on multiple layers of themselves. And also a part of this then being introduced and being given the wisdoms and some secrets of the men, of like how to operate as a man in the world, like, and also many other things would have been provided through these rites of passage journeys, like hunting, understanding your environment, all the practical pieces of like how to provide, as
Right.
a man, and the role that he can play within the tribe. So introduced into a whole new belief system, a whole new way of operating, a whole new way of seeing himself and the world around him, and also understanding of like how to relate with women on a deeper level as well.
Hmm.
And I feel, yeah, that separation from the feminine then allows us to be able to perceive women, the feminine, on a different level, and thus be able to relate in different ways as well, compared to maybe not having completely had that chance to move away.
When you speak about that separation from the feminine, is that specifically just from the mother, or is it a period of separation away from all women exclusively in a men's space?
Yeah, it's away from all women. Yeah, correct. Yeah,
Hmm.
on a tangible level. But I
Yeah.
suppose, yeah, on a more of like a energetic level, it's a separation from the feminine energy completely, to have space to be able to find that within.
When they take on that rite of passage and go through that process, was it for a particular period of time? I'm guessing it would have differed amongst different cultures, different tribal groups. From what you know, was there a general duration of how long a process like that might last?
From my understanding, it's many different lengths of time. I know, speaking to some Aboriginal elders that I've done some journeying with in the past, that it would be a matter of weeks. But the part that they really weren't able to be more definite about of the amount of time is that men would go away on like regular occasions together. So it would be multiple initiations over years of men going into men's business and going deeper and deeper within
Right.
learning these wisdoms. So there was the initial separation, and then there was this
Yeah.
ongoing journeying together where they would be given deeper layers of wisdom, and that wisdom was, yeah, given to them, uh, more on like a on a trust level. When it was, they were like respected and ready for that next level of information, it would be laid into them deeper. So yeah, but in terms of like,
Yeah.
was it 2 days or a week or a month? I don't have the definite answer
Yeah,
for you, but for a
that's
long
cool.
period of time, enough to uh, like lose oneself.
What you just mentioned about them going away over periods of time throughout a lifetime for multiple men's work and continuing to deepen that process. It leads into a question that I had from something you mentioned earlier. You mentioned the notion of feeling like a little boy and the relationship between that and taking responsibility. And this is probably speaking more to men that perhaps have even been through some kinds of initiation. Perhaps say, yeah, I'm good, like I've done that thing, like I'm good now. I'm going to go back to city life or modern life or whatever it may be. Is there the capacity for men to oscillate between those lines of feeling like a man and feeling like a little boy, depending on how they continue to cultivate themselves over time? Or is it just a matter of you do it a handful of times and you're good, you're initiated?
Yeah, I suppose there's different layers to this, and the answer that's dropping in this moment is that we're continually initiating ourselves deeper into who we are. So, I suppose the first part of this discussion has been talking about initiation, which is like a first separation, but
Yeah,
by no means is this first separation like flicking a switch and then it's like done and complete. And like now I am the fully formed version of myself as a man that I expect myself to be until I pass.
right.
So yeah, this ongoing initiation I feel is so important, and what you were alluding to there of like coming away from an initiation, coming back into life, and expecting to be able to just maintain that consistently without any external factors being changed isn't a reality, at least in my experience.
Yeah,
I feel like an initiation presents us with an opportunity to be able to take and to integrate into our life a lot of what we've learned. And sometimes that also means changing our environment and also setting up new structures for ourselves to be able to hold that in integrity in our life. And one of those structures would be also continuing to initiate ourselves or to be amongst other men that we can continue this initiation process, because yeah, it is a real thing of this oscillation between the boy and the man. Even for like a initiated man who's gone through this process, he's still going to have parts of himself that are unintegrated from his childhood. He's still going to have
yeah,
parts of himself that when he's faced with money issues or his partner's upset or his children aren't maybe behaving the way he wants to, different challenges that a man might go through in his life, where he gets fired from a job, of the boy within him, this unintegrated parts being triggered coming up, and then yeah, once again needing to go deeper to integrate this part as well and to initiate this part of himself. So in some ways, I suppose the original initiation of him coming into this journey to begin with, though, gives him and equips him with some powerful tools that he can continue to initiate himself day by day, potentially month by month.
hmm
But not to, this is obviously an important part of a man's journey, is working with himself, but also not to shy away from continuing to go in and to receive and to continue to journey with men, because I think any time that we think that we're done or that we're complete or that we've ticked all the boxes and done the things, it's like our mind's way of tricking us, and it's usually out of fear of going deeper and that there might be more available for us. And on
right.
the other side of like allowing ourselves to step into that curiosity, once again, life can continue to open up anew again and again and again, and like we get to reinvent ourselves. And
Yeah.
this is what I continue to experience. Like I'm 36 now, going to be 37 still. And in this year, just before this call, I was talking with you about how so much of my life has changed, like pretty much completely new version of myself and a new version of my life. There's not much of what used to be there left anymore. And
hmm
yeah, this is another initiation, another coming into being, and allowing myself to become anew. And it's a beautiful thing, this, because I was maybe not even with realizing it, but over the last couple of years feeling and getting caught up in a bit of a man that's coming close to his 40s and already seeing who I was going to be potentially,
Right.
measuring with how I've seen other men that are coming into their 40s and my particular beliefs around, what a 40-year-old man to be. And
hmm
having this experience now and this initiation, it's able to rip down all those walls that I've had and actually to see and what's available, and to like rebirth myself to the point of like feeling like I'm starting life afresh again, like I've got a completely new opportunity on a deeper level, that I didn't have to like physically die to die. I got to
Hmm.
have a new, fresh beginning of life, like a death and a fresh beginning of life without like losing anything. Um,
Yeah.
Fundamentally, my soul still
And
being here.
was that process something that was thrust upon you by life, or was it something that you engaged with actively?
Yeah, engaged with actively. Yeah, I've learned by now, or oscillating between the two, of like it's much more easeful to listen to the signs that keep coming up in life when something is shown to you again and again, whether it be within a relationship where there's constant like fire coming up and constant breaking down, or whether it's goals that aren't being achieved, or whether it's a sense of like I'm not developing and growing. There was a sense of this happening, and there was a real need to look within and ask the questions of myself of like what is in alignment now for what I'm desiring in my future,
Hmm.
and what isn't in alignment. And going through that process then of like day by day picking through each sort of choice point that I had within my life and what I had built around me of like, is this aligned or is this not? And really being in the truth and the honesty of that. And then translating that honesty within myself into conversation with my external world, and not setting it as like a solid of like, this is exactly what I'm doing now, but opening up and just even speaking about my perspectives, because I believe that truth leads to more truth. And when we can speak what we're feeling and what we're experiencing within ourselves and different potentials that we're looking at, that then within relationship, we can start to understand ourselves better, and it starts to float to the surface what the truth is amongst that. So this has
Hmm.
been like a year of uh, really asking these questions, having these inner conversations, and then sharing that perspective externally, and allowing things to recalibrate to where they've been landing now over the last few months.
You mentioned at the start of that response that you found it to be more graceful, being proactive about it. Can you speak to that a little bit more? Because earlier you also mentioned something about the theme of like men shying away from initiation. My experience has been that whether you choose to or not, like it's going to come your way when it's your time. But
Yeah.
around that, it's like first it's subtle and there's an opportunity to listen, like you mentioned. But then eventually,
Yeah.
if you don't end up listening long enough, I've even heard the words that like the dark night of a soul that people refer to in some
Mhm.
circles is actually someone who's had the call for an initiation many times and just not taken it up, and now it's accumulated to this big ominous beast that they get forced through, essentially.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a saying that we can evolve by choice or by chance. So we can choose to evolve when we can hear the signs, or by chance life will find a way of shifting us and moving us. And I think, yeah, to really set out like a framework here of what we're speaking about, of like how to evolve in more of a smooth way, how to stay up to
Mhm.
date with this initiation is, I touched on it just briefly before about being with truth, like,
Right.
and being a truth seeker within ourselves. I feel when we stay up to date with the truth, and what I mean by that is, say, if we've had a discussion and there's something that's on my heart that you've said that's maybe hurt me, or I'm not feeling aligned within a friendship or something like this, to be able to
Hmm.
bring this truth forward in the moment, or at least as soon as I can make sense of it within myself, give space for that to evolve, and either my truth shifts because I see a different perspective through you, and I realize that it was my own stuff, or
Right.
there's a deeper level that is welcomed in from your side of the whole spectrum of what's happening there. And I feel the more this truth that comes through within us, the more we listen to it, the more we take action on it. It's like, imagine doing that over 30 days. You take action on your truth, whether it's speaking something, whether it's actually having more time to yourself. It could be 1,000 different things, whatever it is. But over 30 days, doing that 30 days in a row, to me, that would create a beautiful like upwards curve of us growing and releasing and letting go of the old and making choices towards the new. But if we did the same thing, like complete opposite over 30 days, and we didn't take any action whatsoever, we had the truth come through, and instead of listening to it and taking action on it, we watched another YouTube video all night long, or we caught up with the same friends and just drowned out the noise of our inner voice. After 30 days, just using this as a frame of reference,
Yeah.
life needs to catch up on 30 days worth of action being taken, 30 days worth of energy being moved within our nervous system, 30 days worth of truth not being spoken, to the
Hmm.
point of there has to be quite a big shift then just to get back to this same point, or at least moving in this direction. So my conscious choice is understanding, and I've had some big breakdowns in my life as well. Around the age of 25, I didn't listen to my voice for a long time, and then had everything drop in quite a harsh way, you could say.
Right.
And that took me out for about a 3 year period where I was needing to rebuild myself. And then multiple experiences after this, I've learned the most loving and caring thing for myself and everybody around me is actually to be up to date with my truth and integrate these things slowly. And actually, the safest thing for me to do is for me to be in truth with myself, truth with others, and which allows me also to feel the proportionate amount of emotion for where I'm up in my journey. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's been my journey with it, and why I prioritize this in my life, because it's like I can take the hard way, or I can take the smooth way and enjoy the journey a lot more.
We've covered a few different themes around the topic of initiation. Is there anything alive for you that is really pertinent for you through this process that you're just gone through and are going through that you'd love to speak to about the theme of initiation, or just something that
Mm,
we haven't covered in the conversation that you feel is really important and valuable for men to have a listen to?
yeah, there's one piece that's really on my heart and has been like building within me for the last years as I've been exploring it more for myself. And
Hmm.
of course, the key to any initiation and any level of growth as a man is to be in full responsibility. But one thing that I've seen within myself and within some men, not all men, but in some men, their blockage point can be, and this certainly was for me, is taking too much responsibility for the external world. And what I mean in that way of not being willing to change my external environment and thinking I need to keep going deeper within myself. Yeah. So
Right.
going deep within myself and getting into deeper and deeper levels of emotion, but not realizing that that emotion was being continued to be created. My belief systems were continuing to be reinforced by me not shifting the external,
Hmm.
and not realizing, or not being willing to move from my environment. And yeah, I feel definitely the first part of any journey is to be in full responsibility for oneself. And then that transitions over. And I feel like the other half of the influence is then taking responsibility for the external world as well, what's around me, and what am I allowing into my proximity, what am I allowing into my kingdom that's not allowing me to be in my fullest self. And of course, there is a real dividing of airs there, because that same language structure that I just spoke there, what in my external world is not allowing me to be in my best version of self, could also be used from a victimhood perspective of somebody saying, if it
Sure.
wasn't for this, I would be better off. If it wasn't for that, I would be better off. But this is from where I'm speaking to the truth of this, is from a place of exploring all of those things within ourselves first, of where can I grow to shift things externally, where can I grow to be um, a better leader, a better father, more profound within my work, and to be able to shift things. And then getting to the point of also going, okay, and where am I not willing to actually shift things externally because I'm too attached to it, because I don't know what would be on the other side of me even having the conversation about shifting my external world. So yes, this is one thing that I became aware of within myself, and I see in men regularly, is um, getting almost like too heavy on oneself and getting caught up in this
Right.
game of continuing to dig deeper, and their environments locking in place.
How do you draw that line? Or how do you
Mm,
support men to draw that line to recognize where sometimes it is a matter of not going deeper and changing the
mm,
external?
yeah. I feel it's different case by case scenario, but I suppose the main piece is just to seeing where the man is within the way he speaks, the way he's living already. Is he in full responsibility within himself? Is he making aligned decisions that are in alignment with what he's speaking? Is he taking actions on those things? And if
Hmm.
so, he's in integrity with himself. He's taking responsibility,
Right.
and then we can start having this other conversation about, okay, well, maybe then we need to start looking, at what's in your environment, what could you shift. And of course, there gets a stage where we're doing both at the same time, internal shift and also what's happening in our world. So, but it's the biggest thing is through trial and error, through the man within his own world. And I think, just coming back to this reference point that I was speaking about before, of like being in our own truth as a man and being willing to have truthful conversations, I
Mm-hmm.
feel this allows things to continue to become clearer and clearer, where we start to separate what is our story and what's, our belief systems that are keeping us locked down and confused, and what is actual reality of what I need to take action on, and
Got it.
what is the truth in this situation that's going to lead to more love, more growth for everybody. And I feel by coming into a more mastery of conversation without it needing to sort of like blurt out all at once, but we're used to of being a truth speaker, of bringing this into our relationships and talking and sharing our heart's deepest emotion through being able to take responsibility for it, of not saying this is your fault, this is happening, but more so what I'm feeling is that I'm questioning whether this is aligned anymore. And I want to be able to voice this through, because I don't know whether that is correct in this moment, but I want to be able to have this conversation so that you know where I'm up to, that you can also share your input, and that we can speak things through and allow what is meant to be to come to the surface. So I feel through communicating in this way and coming into softness and not needing to prove or hide or defend anything, we can really allow things to unfold and to bring our environment with us, or that it becomes quite naturally, organically, it starts unfolding of what is no longer in alignment, and it's often also verified from the other side of the other people we're dealing with, or the situation. It just becomes so clear of like, wow, okay, this is not what it's meant to be moving forward for me.
Yeah,
By
cool.
Yeah.
And so to clarify a little bit more for the listeners, I feel like there's two pathways that you're speaking to there primarily that people can take. One is feedback from other men that have perhaps been down the path further than they have, that can offer them that reflection. And then in a situation where, for whatever reason, if a man finds himself not around the quality of men that can offer that, try and find those circles, obviously as an immediate recommendation. But if there's a lone wolf out there, that's listening to this right now, that's asking themselves the question of how do I practically assess whether I'm being responsible effectively, right? Whether there's a need to start changing the external. The way I landed for me is that it's about looking at the feedback that they're getting from their reality. So as long as
Yeah.
they're in connection with what they feel more than what they think, and allow themselves enough softness to feel and operate from that state, speaking to the truth that's there for them, whether it's in business, intimate relationships, or whatever else, and to see what the feedback is from the world around them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's run an example. What if the feedback's chaotic? What does that mean? How would I interpret that if I'm someone who's taking the step of courage and faith to do this for the first time in my life, and perhaps I've been quiet for 25, 30 years and never had the heart to speak from that place of depth. And I've been meditating for a little while. I've started to notice that, yeah, things might feel a little misaligned. And I speak to the world externally and it goes chaotic.
Mhm.
What does that mean? What do I do?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's a beautiful thing to speak to as well, because often, the first few times that we do start to step out of what has been, it does feel chaotic. There is chaos, because suddenly we're making a shift within an environment, within an ecosystem that nobody's used to of. And we might be speaking on a deeper level and speaking about emotions, which our environment may not be used to of at all. So I think some word of guidance in this area is to take one step at a time, and
Mhm.
to be able to have one conversation at a time. And just because it's chaotic, just because it feels more sometimes overwhelming in the body, it doesn't mean it's the wrong path. Yeah, I feel there's a need of like opening something and having the conversation, and then allowing time and space for things to settle, allowing time and space for uh, nature to take its course. Because when we speak something, like in this instance of speaking truth into a household, then of course the other person has their own process their own journey that they have to go through, which we're blessing them with, to allow
Hmm.
them to be able to refine their truth in the situation as well. So yeah, I think this piece of have there's a large amount of safety in knowing that all I need to do is take one step at a time, whether that be one conversation and open something, and then to sit back and to sit and allow that to be dissolved and allow that to open up in its own right before needing to try to like open or fix everything. Because sometimes the one of the traits of like more of a unhealthy masculine trait is wanting to get things to completion. It's like, cool, I'm going to now speak about everything that's happened in the last 30 years, and I want to complete that conversation in one night, say with my partner or with a friend, and I'm going to speak to all the things in chronological order, and so I can have it complete. And often that within oneself is a thing of not wanting to sit with one's emotion and wanting to pass it through as quick as possible so I can move on and I can be complete with all of this. And the
Right.
reality of life is we're multidimensional beings. There's so much happening, so much memory stored in these bodies, so much to journey through, which when we learn how to ride that and how to work with ourselves is not as chaotic as what it might sound. But I feel by taking one step at a time, we don't have to open up Pandora's box, open up everything. And
Hmm.
often we don't need to, the mind thinks that we need to go through all of the different things to resolve it. But by being in truth with what's there and having that conversation about the thing that's most important to us right now and is taking up the most time and energy within our mind body system, it allows us to sometimes not even have to take all the steps that we thought we needed to take. If we follow the mind, we can go on this wild goose chase of doing all the things we think we needed to do. But when we're in truth, we're entrusting the thing that's dropped in for us and then not questioning ourselves and continuing to need to grasp and open up new things to get some sense of safety. This
Right.
allows a process to take place that's a lot more smooth. It's like us flowing down a river with life, and it takes us on this journey of slowly wearing off the edges, like a rock getting ground up against the side of a riverbank, and things are slowly released. Um, yeah, and as I said, some of those knocks don't even need to happen that the mind would have taken us through otherwise. So
Right.
yeah, coming full circle with what you asked there about the chaos,
Yeah.
um, it's a very real part of the journey, and this is
Hmm.
where I feel we're forged as men by facing our emotion, facing the inner chaos. That the battlefield isn't this Hollywood sort of thing that's been put up on a pedestal of us standing on the battlefield and running into battle and being victorious. It's this inwards warrior who's willing to be able to face adversity within oneself and being able to sit there and hold oneself gently while the storm passes. So
Yeah.
opening, allowing the storm to pass, and then from that clarity, making more decisions.
Yeah. Nice one. Tremendous, bro. I feel like that's a nice one to cap it for this one, bro. I feel like we've covered quite a few topics that are super valuable. For people that want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to find out more about the work that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, it'd be through my Instagram account. So at Greg_Barwick. That's where I'm staying, keeping things most up to date, and also on Facebook as well. So just Greg Barwick.
Thanks so much for this conversation, bro. It's been super valuable, and you've offered tremendous insight for men at multiple stages of the journey. I anticipated that it would go something like this, and it's been really sweet to hear about some of your personal experiences and also like the wealth of knowledge you've accumulated along the way. Appreciate it, bro.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Thanks for holding this space and bringing this through to all the brothers out there.
Sweet.